The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, interactive.
Coming up next on the weekend edition of the RCWR show, we take a look back and what all you might have missed from this week's WWE Raw main event, SmackDown, TNA Impact Wrestling, and the very latest in wrestling-related news and beyond. It's the weekend edition of the RCWR show, and it begins right now.
Covering the latest in wrestling and beyond. You're listening to the RCWR show, weekend edition, with your host, Lee Sanders.
Welcome to the weekend edition of the RCWR show. I am the Black Avenger, aka the Black Aswell, Lee Sanders. Thank you for checking out this episode on February 9th, 2013. Hope y'all are having a great jump start to your weekend right now. I know football season is over and done with, at least for the next several months. But hey, at least we got the NBA, and that is just really playing out pretty nicely right now. All right, so as always, you know how we do it over here on the weekend edition of the RCWR show. We dip into what all you might have missed from this past week in wrestling. Hook you up with the latest in wrestling news, entertainment news, and beyond. For those of you wondering, no, Diamond K is not with me. Diamond K doesn't do the weekend edition of the RCWR show, but he will definitely be back with me next Tuesday as we take a look into what all had played out from Monday's WWE Raw as the setup for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view builds. But for now, just kick on back, relax, just like I'm doing right now, and let's talk about what all you might have missed this week. Let's kick it off with WWE Raw, where finally, after years and years and years and years away from the company, it seems, we finally see two-time WWF champion and legend Bruno Sammartino, the real People's Champion, the real great one, take his rightful place as he was announced as the new inductee into the 2013 WWE Hall of Fame. He joins an elite group, as so far we have the hardcore legend Mick Foley, Trish Stratus, Mr. Bob Backlund. Now you can add Bruno Sammartino to the list. Great moment right here, of course. The main talk that has everybody buzzing is the fact that Triple H, who had been in negotiations with Sammartino for almost 7 months to get this deal done, he is the one that can lay claim that it was all him that had got this deal done. And what an interesting week that it's been as we just continue to learn new things about how this deal had really came about. And it's so funny because a lot of people were looking at this, and some would argue that Bruno Sammartino sold out. Really, I don't think that's even the case. What a lot of folks fail to realize is that just because Bruno Sammartino hasn't been involved in the WWE, it doesn't mean that he hasn't had anything to do with wrestling. It's not like he just dropped off the face of the earth. He's still over there in his stomping grounds of Pittsburgh, where he does a wrestling radio show. He always makes a lot of appearances talking about wrestling. I know recently we have reported on him almost towards late last year doing some work for Ring of Honor Wrestling, where he was presented with a Wrestling Lifetime Achievement Award. The man is still involved in the business tremendously. Also does some motivational speakings, all that, the whole 9 yards. So it's not like he just dropped off of the face from wrestling. And, this really had came down to a point where Bruno Sammartino wanted certain things to be done by the company. And one of those things was definitely the check, that paycheck that is. And we can all speculate all we want as far as how much money Bruno was paid. But the one thing that we do know, whatever demands that Bruno had, Vince McMahon was at many times hell-bent. He didn't want to go through with the deal, but Triple H eventually, he got his way and was able to get Bruno into this. Now, we're hearing of the domino effect that this is going to have far as Bruno Sammartino being inducted. It's not just going to extend to the induction. He's going to be part of special DVD documentaries. We're now going to get, I would hope, a 4, maybe even a 5-disc set of Bruno Sammartino, maybe some type of an anthology, if you will. Try to treat it like they did with Hulk Hogan. But the documentary piece, I would imagine that would be one interesting story in itself. Of course, they are in negotiations with WWE Studios to try to see if there could be possibly a way they could get his movie, Bruno Sammartino, the movie, launched. And everything is still in the early stages right now as far as that particular project goes. But what is a lock for sure is that we'll be getting Bruno Sammartino's commentating on DVDs, a wrestling documentary, anthology DVD, the works, maybe a few special appearances on Raw, SmackDown, here or there. So we're definitely going to be seeing him. I think it is a welcome addition to the WWE Hall of Fame. Now the Hall of Fame, it has legitimacy. And, for that, I just think from a wrestling fan standpoint, it's about damn time that we see something like this go down. Very excited. And, you just can't help but think about the direction that WWE is going in right now with Triple H, who is no doubt going to be the successful heir to the throne once Vince McMahon does step down. And yes, we know things were kind of rocky there when Triple H had brought in Sin Cara, when he brought in Karma. Those didn't really work out too well. How about when he tried to make Drew McIntyre be his own little pet project? That eventually kind of blew up in his face a little bit, but he has rebounded very nicely with his NXT wrestling developmental territory that he's been putting his thumbprints on, with the way that he has just been able to really take helm of Raw and SmackDown whenever Vince McMahon isn't able to do the shows, and just provide a really cool laid-back atmosphere to securing Bruno Sammartino. Triple H, no doubt, he has proven to Vince McMahon, and I'm quite sure he's proven to shareholders, that when the time comes and Vince McMahon does decide he wants to hang it up, the company will be in good hands. And just look at the current way that the product is in WWE right now and compare it to how it was, I would say, 2008 to 2009. Not everything is perfect, but today's WWE is definitely a better product than what we had got 2-3 years ago. It's off to a really good start, especially with the way that Triple H is going about conducting business. It's really a good time for WWE right now, because when Triple H does come into full power, there are just so many safeguards that are in effect right now with their wellness policy that continues to improve. There's zero tolerance of steroids not being used. I mean, these guys are just really off to a strong start, and I just feel that with all these moves that they're making, WWE, their future is definitely looking very, very bright. But once again, you just got to give your hats off to Triple H. Now, some people, they may be a little bit alienated by me saying this. They may be alienated by folks that are sitting up and would agree with me that Triple H has done a superb job. We know there are going to be people that's just going to hate Triple H guts till the very end. They probably wish him harm. They probably wish him death. And I just think that all that is just downright silly. You just got to appreciate where he is from that business standpoint. And, unfortunately, some people, they may look at that as kind of hard to do, given the way he was brought up in the ranks. But, that was a long time ago. It is what it is. We got to talk about the here and the now. And honestly, I will go on record and say that I have been enjoying the moves of Triple H, a WWE executive, a little bit more than Triple H, King of Kings, doing his thing in the ring. Although it is nice to see him from time to time. Other action that we had saw on WWE Raw this past Monday night. We saw a great 5-star quality match between CM Punk, former WWE champion, against the real best in the world, Chris Jericho. Good way to close out Monday Night Raw. And of course, this was the result of a voting contest as selected by you, the WWE fans. Notice, though, during that polling, how Chris Jericho had overwhelmingly got 57% of the votes. Randy Orton had got 30%, and if I'm not mistaken, Rey Mysterio, he was in the low teens there. That just really sends a powerful message to me that Rey Mysterio just doesn't captivate the fans like he used to, and maybe that's largely in part to the number of injuries that he continues to have, and just the fact that he just keeps working this really weird limited schedule. 1 minute you'll see him back for 2, maybe 3 weeks, then he's on hiatus for about 3, 6, 8 weeks. Kind of really hard to build a little momentum going in his favor. It sounds like he's almost got a TNA deal, if you kind of know what I mean there. But it is what it is with that. But I just thought that was very interesting right there. And notice also how either way, we still had got Rey Mysterio in a match. This definitely was the week of, if you were WWE or TNA and you were trying to do something with your voting system, this was definitely the bad week to be doing it. Of course, WWE letting it be known that folks that tried to vote for those 3 participants I named a few seconds ago, they had a widespread glitch in their voting system as everybody tried to vote at the same time. They ended up having to use their WWE.com website as a way to get folks to cast their votes. Interesting development right there, though. Of course, the silverback, who's going to get their ass beat is what I like to say when I think about Mark Henry, or somebody's going to get their ass kicked. Mark Henry made his triumphant return. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm happy that he's back, but I'm a little disappointed that he's out of shape. And of course, CM Punk was able to continue his program with The Rock and name drop Vince McMahon, as he feels that McMahon is doing nothing more than causing a conspiracy, as it was not Paul Heyman that was in the footage shown last week, indicating that he is the one behind the Shield, and Brad Maddox keeping CM Punk's title around his waist, at least until he came across The Rock. Very interesting development right there. CM Punk, though, got to give him props. He is keeping it nice and warm for The Rock, who is getting ready to return. And it should be noted that despite The Rock not being at Raw this past Monday night, he did a superb job, he being CM Punk, and WWE overall. They did a pretty superb job, despite the episode at least most times being a little bit lackluster. Ratings were pretty strong. It ended up being a 3.55, a 3.58 if I'm not mistaken, compared to last week when the Raw was on, which had got a 3.68. So looks like a good chunk of the fans that saw Rock last week had came on back as they had interest in the WWE product. Good news right there for WWE. But pretty decent episode of Raw overall. Now, for those of you that want to get the full in-depth look into what all you might have missed from Raw this past Monday night, I highly encourage you guys to go on ahead, backtrack, and check out the Tuesday night edition of the RCWR show with new co-host Diamond K. We had a really great roundtable discussion just talking about all things WWE, Raw, WWE. Check that out. Be Kind Rewind. It's in the archive section right now, and you can thank us later for that. All right, so we're going to take a very brief commercial break, but when we come right back, we'll go on ahead and we'll dip into what all you might have missed from Main Event this past Wednesday night on the Ion channel. We'll also talk about the very latest in TNA Impact Wrestling news. Also get you caught up in SmackDown, a little bit more wrestling news, and beyond. You're listening to the weekend edition of the RCWR show. We will be coming right back.
For news you can use, like us on Facebook during this commercial break at Infinity One Productions.
Weekend edition of the RCWR show is back. Black Avenger, a.k.a. the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders with you all. Quick programming note. Don't worry, we'll let you guys know again later on in this broadcast. But we just want to give you a heads up right now. Next Thursday night, there will not be Impact Showdown Radio. Instead, it's going to be replaced by a very special episode of the RCWR show. It's Slow Jamming with Lee. Make sure you join me Valentine's Day night beginning at 12 a.m. Eastern, as I'll be kicking back playing some very nice slow jams from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and today. If you and your cutie plan on staying in, let us help you unwind. Gonna have some really great songs that we'll be playing for you guys. And if there's a particular song you want for us to play, you still have a little bit of time to submit it to us. You can do so by hitting us up on Twitter at Infinity1Prod. You can also do so on Facebook at Infinity One Productions. Hey, feel like shooting us an email? You can do that as well. Hit us up at infinityoneproductions@gmail.com. Let us know the name of the artist, the name of the song, what album it's from. If you have that, it's really not necessary, but as long as you have the name of the artist and the song, we will do our best to find it for you. And who knows, maybe it'll be your song that we'll be playing and dedicate to you and your cutie this Valentine's Day. So make sure you join us for that. It's going to be a really cool, kick-ass, unique show. We'll try it out. It's a little experiment. We're going to see how it goes. And if it goes pretty well, we'll probably do more specials like that. But do join us. It's nice to switch it up from time to time. Thursday night, Valentine's Day night, 12 a.m. Eastern. All right, so let's go on ahead and let's talk about the very latest from what you missed from Main Event this past Wednesday night, as seen on the Ion channel, where originally it was supposed to be the International Cup for Wade Barrett's Intercontinental title, but it looks like that's not going to be happening until next week. Instead, this was pretty much a night where we had saw Sheamus take on Cody Rhodes. Sheamus showing a little bit more of a humorous side as he tried to mimic SmackDown General Manager Booker T, Vicky Guerrero, Vince McMahon. I thought he should have stopped after Vicky Guerrero. I didn't think it was going to get any better than that, and he just tried a little bit too hard with his Vince McMahon impression. But Sheamus defeated Cody Rhodes, and if you're keeping track, that was 2 losses that Cody Rhodes has suffered this week. We also saw Damian Sandow in action, and man, looks like he's finally gotten himself out of the little funk that he's been in as of late. Despite being teamed up with Cody Rhodes here, we actually saw him pick up a win over Daniel Bryan Danielson, but this came with a little bit of help from the big red monster Kane. Let's not forget, it was Monday night on Raw where we saw Daniel Bryan be able to pick up a win in his respected match and be able to advance to the World Heavyweight Championship match at Elimination Chamber. He would later interfere in his tag partner's Kane's match after Bryan had suffered a serious beatdown by Mark Henry, asking Kane where he was. Kane letting it be known, hey, you told me to stay in the back. I didn't think you needed me to come out. Payback is a mother lover, if you catch my drift, as Daniel Bryan had interfered in Kane's match, costing him a chance of advancing into the World Heavyweight Championship match. So on Main Event this past Wednesday, this was a little bit of a way for Kane to get a little bit of retribution. Again, costing Daniel Bryan the victory here. Damian Sandow, nice to see him back on a winning streak, or at least we hope that it's the beginning of a winning streak. Also, surprisingly, we had got some Divas action to close out Main Event for Wednesday. It was the Funkadelics, Naomi and Cameron, taking on Tamina and Ask Anna. This was surprisingly a good match. You know, I am just constantly reminded time and time again that those Funkadelic girls, they actually do know how to wrestle. And please do not ask me which one is Naomi and which one is Cameron, because I would like to say that Naomi is the dark one. I could be wrong, though, but if I'm right, then it should be noted that Naomi, she's actually spent a couple of years in the independent circuit wrestling, so it's no surprise there that she would be put in a match there. But surprisingly, that was a very good contest, had just the right amount of time needed to tell a good story in the ring. Seems like the Divas division is in a little bit of a rebuilding process there. It looks like they're getting a little bit of a spotlight. But you know, the main story that we got coming out of Main Event is the fact that WWE Creative, they are seriously giving consideration to making Main Event be the type of show where they could put more emphasis on the Intercontinental title. Think about it. As it stands, Raw is all about the WWE title. SmackDown is all about the World Heavyweight title. Now, it looks like they want to focus on that Intercontinental title, and they want to use Main Event as the platform in doing so. Thus, why we have the return of the International Cup, which, from what I am hearing, will definitely be taking place next Wednesday on Main Event. And that should be a very interesting series in itself. But I am actually all for this. At the same time, if they could kind of stretch it out and do like they did with this past week's Main Event and try to give us 2-3 matches at least, I would be all for it. I just don't want to see a scenario go down where we're constantly seeing the Intercontinental Champion week after week after week, and that's pretty much it. You know, you definitely, at this point, if you're going to put that spotlight on that Intercontinental title, you definitely need to have a second or third match. And, really, when I think about it, it is a good concept. I think for a long time now, for many, many years, that Intercontinental title, it has just really been in purgatory. It just seems like there really hasn't been, the last time I can actually think of somebody that put a little bit of legitimacy back to that Intercontinental title, I almost would have to go with... It's a toss-up. It's between Chris Jericho and it's between Christian. I was getting ready to say Chris Benoit, but if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong on this, and if I am wrong, I humbly apologize in advance, but if I'm not mistaken, Chris Benoit never held the Intercontinental title. He just kept getting the United States title. But even at that, he put a lot of legitimacy back into that belt. But Christian and Chris Jericho are the two people that I think of when it comes to putting a little bit of legitimacy into that title. I am all for them using Main Event as the platform to really push that Intercontinental guy, because really, if they do it this way, this will really give them a strong idea on whether or not whoever is their Intercontinental Champion will no doubt be a future WWE or World Heavyweight Champion. And remember, folks, back in the heydays when it came to the 80s, early 90s, there used to be a fun part of watching WWE programming when it came to that Intercontinental title. Remember, some of the best matches of all time revolved around that Intercontinental Championship, and that was your prelude into who could possibly be the man of the company. So I'm all for this. This week, though, definitely a very strong episode of Main Event. Very, very pleased with how they just continue to evolve this show on a regular basis. All right, let's switch it up and let's talk about what happened from Impact Wrestling as seen on Spike TV this week. In case you might have missed it, it was pre-taped. This was actually done last Friday. 2 of 4 shows that TNA Wrestling is doing, as they are in the UK, but they will be back in the US very shortly. Well, we saw the continuation of what had went down last week as apologize there, folks. Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff, they had explained their actions for joining Aces and Nates, and pretty much to sum it up, they felt both as if they were a little bit betrayed. For Garrett Bischoff, it was all about respect. He really didn't feel he was getting that from the boys in the locker room, nor was he really getting that from the TNA fans, so that's why he teamed up with Aces and Eights. Wes Briscoe, on the other hand, he took it a little bit more personal, as the root of his problem was Hulk Hogan, pointing out that the Hulkster had turned him down for at least 2 years, not bringing him into TNA wrestling. And then by the time he did bring him in, Hogan told him he'd have to work his way at the bottom, work his way up to the top. And to put him in the TNA gut check match was what he felt was nothing but a joke, as his name speaks for itself. Briscoe, his family is legendary in the wrestling business. So Briscoe explaining why he joined up with Aces and Eights. Of course, Aces and Eights, Doc and Devon, they would end up being in a main event tag match where they had took on a reinstated Bully Ray, who had teamed up with Sting. And they were pushing their war paint and all as they took on these men in a tag team tables match, of which Sting and Bully Ray, Mr. Do You Know Who I Am, had picked up the victory. Post-match, they were joined by the lovely Brooke Hogan and the immortal TNA General Manager, Hulk Hogan. So, looks like Bully Ray is off to a good start here, but they are obviously not done with Aces and Eights, not by a long shot. You know, Aces and Eights is going to continue to regroup, and they will come back even stronger than before. This definitely is not over by a long shot. Also, main highlight from Impact this past Thursday night, we had got crowned new tag champions as Austin Aries and Bobby Roode had defeated Chavo and Hernandez. Talk about the new version of Kane and Daniel Bryan. They just don't have Dr. Shelby. Maybe they need Dr. Richards. How about that? This is definitely a welcome change. I had been saying it for a long time. It seemed like Chavo and Hernandez, they have just both respectively in all the promotions that they've been in, they've always held on to tag team titles. I just thought it was about damn time that we see these guys take a little break and that the titles finally be taken off of them, because we have so many great young guys that are on that TNA roster right now that really deserve a chance to get some TV time and really have some good-ass matches. So I'm really hoping, as me and Diamond K have pointed out on Impact Showdown Radio this past Thursday night, really hoping that this is a case where they're not going to be involved in a long program with Chavo and Hernandez, who no doubt have a rematch clause in their contract. They probably will be invoking it very shortly. But hopefully, with regards to this, we can just see the team of Austin and Roode just continue to rock on, as the name of the game for them is trying to pick up every single title in the TNA organization, cleanse the company of all the old heads that continue to have these belts, that continue winning them over and over and over again, while younger, newer talent keeps getting pushed to the side. Speaking of newer, younger talent, we saw the TNA British Boot Camp contestant winner, Rockstar Spud, make his debut, and looks like he's off to a pretty good start, as he had feuded briefly with Robbie E. I would look for that to definitely continue at that. And not to mention, we also got to show some love to the Knockouts. They had some pretty great action, as the lovely Miss Tessmacher had picked up a win over Tara in a non-title singles match, is what I was trying to say. Of course, TNA, they are going to be coming to San Antonio very shortly for their Lockdown pay-per-view, and also they're going to be hitting the road beginning March 14th, as they'll be bringing us Impact Wrestling live from various cities in the U.S. First stop is going to be the Sears Center in my old stomping grounds, Chicago, Illinois. Some great stuff right there. Now, for those of you that want to get a little bit more insight into what you might have missed from Impact Wrestling this past Thursday night, Highly encourage you guys to go backtrack and check out Impact Showdown Radio. You can catch it now. Me, Diamond K, kicking back, talking all things TNA wrestling. Great in-depth discussion. We even talked about the possible end result for Aces and Nades. It was really good. I highly recommend that you guys check it out. We remixed it. We're aware that we had a little bit of technical difficulties on that episode. It was remixed, so we took all that stuff out as there was a lot of dead space in there for several minutes. Go on back, check it out when you get a chance. Thank us later. All right, so we're going to go on ahead and we're going to take a very brief commercial break, but when we come right back, we'll talk about the very latest in Ring of Honor Wrestling. And hey, it's my favorite part of the show where we take a look at what's going on in the independent scene. We know we got Shine Wrestling 7, the iPay-per-view that's going to be coming our way on Friday, February 22nd. We'll take a look at the card, let you know what matches you all can expect before we dive into a little bit of entertainment news. Hey, we haven't forgotten about SmackDown either. We'll definitely be going over that as soon as we come back from commercial break. You're listening to the weekend edition of the RCWR show. We'll be coming right back, folks. Do hang tight.
Be sure to check us out every Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern at blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR show for all the latest in wrestling news and beyond.
Weekend edition of the RCWR show is back. Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders here. So, in great fashion, we saw the return of Mark Henry as he made his in-ring debut on Friday's SmackDown, winning a main event match against the Viper, Randy Orton, to no doubt had impressed SmackDown General Manager Booker T and acting assistant Theodore Long. Now, this had came after Mark Henry came post-match as Great Khali had picked up a victory over Titus O'Neil. We saw him just manhandle Titus. I guess he was kind of pissed off that Titus wasn't able to get the job done against the Great Khali. I guess this was Mark Henry's way of telling Titus, you can't beat Great Khali. Pretty much anybody can beat this fool. Let me show you how it's done is kind of what I had perceived from this physical exchange that he gave to O'Neil. Now, we did see him go in and he went head to head with Great Khali. It's like two big bulls just going at it for a few seconds. Mark Henry getting the best as he just utilized the hell out of that massively insane strength that he has to deliver the world's strongest slam to Great Khali. And then demanding that the SmackDown General Manager, Booker T, come out to address why he has not received any type of phone call, email, tweet as far as being involved in the World Heavyweight Tournament that's going to be going down leading into the Elimination Chamber, as he wants in at the Chamber. He wants to be able to get a shot at that World Heavyweight title. SmackDown GM Booker T letting it be known that he was out for 9 months and is very concerned at this point if Mark Henry still has it. And that is why he had put him in the main event match. But you know, the one question that just continues to linger on my mind is what is going on with Christian at last. You know, what's going on with him? Where's the one more match? I want to know where the hell is Christian. We got all these other guys, even Jack Swagger popping up in this, and it seems like the one person that we have not seen yet is Christian. Now, I don't know about you all, but the way I'm kind of looking at this right now, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Christian might come back as a heel and might play a serious thorn in the side of Booker T. Something of which, if you kind of think about it, Christian was without a doubt a thorn in the side of Theodore Long when he was the SmackDown GM. So I'm kind of wondering if Christian is going to continue in that same old fashion. But I am eagerly anticipating the return of Christian. Now, we're hearing that he's supposed to be coming back within the next 2 weeks. At this point, it really wouldn't surprise me if you just have him come out just a little bit after the Elimination Chamber, or quite honestly, you could have him do a little bit of shock value and pop up on next week's Monday's Raw to kind of help push his storyline as far as what about him? Where's his shot at the Elimination Chamber? Speaking of some of these matches concerning certain men that could possibly be in the Elimination Chamber, Jack Swagger, he was in action and he was trying to do his damnedest to impress the SmackDown GM and assistant, as he had defeated very soundly and just rather squash match when I really think about this. He took out Justin Gabriel. Cody Rhodes, he had defeated Kofi Kingston. Other action we saw on SmackDown had to do with Alberto Del Rio and Big Show as they continue their rivalry. Now, bear in mind that SmackDown GM Booker T, he had suspended Alberto Del Rio as a result of his actions against Big Show on Monday night. Remember that whole hotel brawl there, which had Big Show really pissed off, trying to figure out who had got a hold of his hotel information to pass along to Del Rio. Booker T responding as best as he could to this action displayed by the World Heavyweight Champion. So he suspended him for the night. However, Del Rio would release a tweet saying that he would arrive at the arena, and that, bear in mind, does not violate the suspension in any type of way, as he is not in the building. We saw him be predator to Big Show, who was getting prepared for his match against Kane, and we saw him get off of his tour bus. Del Rio had some words with Big Show's touring assistant / driver, letting it be known he didn't appreciate the fact that this man wasn't preparing his foods properly, also didn't do a good job cleaning the tour bus, and really just confiding in Del Rio was this man of how he felt he was being mistreated. And they actually did a little bit of redecorating of Big Show's tour bus. Now, Del Rio would distract Big Show in his match against Kane, letting him know he did do a little something with the tour bus. This had Big Show quickly leaving out of the ring to go see what was going on. And Big Show's poor tour bus, all of its wheels were missing on the cinder blocks at that. And to make matters worse, he had got drenched with what looked like a bucket of hot sauce before Del Rio went riding on top of a tire truck vehicle driven is not a word. Forgive me about that, folks. Driven by Ricardo Rodriguez. I felt pretty bad for Big Show. He just really kind of came off as if he was screaming like Chewbacca there. You really got to look that up if you haven't saw this. It was some funny stuff. He was just kicking back, just going, "Arr! Arr!" Some really ridiculous stuff right there. But overall, pretty decent episode of SmackDown that we had got as we continue to see the programs, or vignettes rather, of Fandango that's soon going to be making his debut. Remember, there was a couple of months ago we had saw some vignettes of him getting ready to make his debut, and it never came about. Hopefully this time around they're actually going to stay true to their word, and we're actually going to see Fandango. And no, I'm not talking about the website where you can get your hookup on movie tickets, folks. Alright, so wrestling related news wise, I want to give you guys a heads up. In case you might have not been watching Bellator MMA fighting on Spike TV Thursday night, Dixie Carter, that's right, TNA president Dixie Carter, she made a special cameo on there. She was interviewed for about 3, maybe 5 minutes. She had some major news, a huge announcement that she just had to share with Bellator fighting, with its fans, and potentially TNA wrestlers that were possibly checking out Bellator fighting that night. And the news is that Jeff Hardy has re-signed with TNA Wrestling. That's right. Jeff Hardy has re-signed with TNA Wrestling. He has signed a 2-year extension. So we will be seeing Jeff Hardy in the organization, like it or not for some of you. We will be seeing him in TNA Wrestling right on up until 2015. And that just explains why things went the way that they did with the injury angle that we had saw a couple of weeks ago, where at the end of the match that Jeff Hardy had won, we saw that Aces and Eights member come from behind, attack him with that hammer. That was pretty much their way of taking out Jeff Hardy and trying to figure out if he did in fact want to stay with the company. And this just has to please upper TNA management, as really they would have found themselves to be in a little bit of a rough spot had Hardy left, because that just equals merchandise sales, tickets, all that just gone if you don't have Jeff Hardy in TNA. He is definitely playing a very vital role right now. But see, now the question becomes, now that he's resigned, are you going to continue to have him be the TNA champion? Next couple of months should be a very interesting story at that. Well, one thing is for certain, and that's Jeff Hardy will be holding on to that title for the next couple of months. Because remember how they're doing these pay-per-views now. I seriously doubt we're going to see Jeff Hardy drop the title at the next pay-per-view that'll be coming up, which, if I'm not mistaken, is Lockdown. That's going to be happening in San Antonio, Texas. So just bear all that in mind. Question was asked if Spike TV's Impact Wrestling, Bellator, if it's really a good collaboration that they're doing. And I mean, quite honestly, I think the approach is right, because they're trying to help each other out, gain proper exposure on both brands. But I just kind of feel like they really should just be separated. I kind of feel as though maybe they should only be crossing paths when it has to do with King Mo. Really, that just makes more sense to me. Now, just feel me on this for a second, folks, and we got to keep it real here. I love this part of the show when we do a Keep It Real segment. Look, we had King Mo make his Bellator MMA debut, if I'm not mistaken, about 2 weeks ago. Now, wouldn't it have made a little bit more sense to have TNA President Dixie Carter make the announcement then? Wouldn't it have made a little bit more sense to kind of have the injury go down with Jeff Hardy just a couple of weeks before then, let him be out for a little bit, then once King Mo makes his MMA debut, that really just would have been a perfect transition. TNA President Dixie Carter is there. She could talk about how, yes, King Mo, it's very awesome that he's working for Bellator and he's working for TNA Wrestling. And then also that would have been a perfect segue for her to say, oh, yes, and by the way, guys, we got a huge announcement that we'd like to share with your audience. I'm sure TNA wrestling fans, hopefully they're getting this too, but we're definitely going to make sure we do our part to make sure that everybody knows the great news. But we wanted to let you guys know first before we issue a press release that Jeff Hardy has re-signed with TNA Wrestling. That just really would have made perfect sense to me in that fashion. And, like I said, unless it comes to King Mo, they really shouldn't be hooking up like this, unless it's a case where Bellator fighters just happen to be in the Florida area or what have you. Unless it's a scenario like that, then I can understand Impact plugging them. But to just have Dixie Carter just randomly pop up on Bellator, I'm all for companies helping out each other, but it just has to make sense. It has to be a really smooth transition, and this definitely was a case where it just really came off kind of tacky and kind of desperate for attention, is the way that I would perceive this. All right, and I want to let you guys know that, of course, we will be continuing our coverage of independent wrestling promotions. And hey, you know that yours truly over here, love it or hate it, I'm a huge fan of independent women's wrestling, and I'm very proud to tell you guys, especially you guys that like to follow Shimmer Wrestling and Shine Wrestling, looks like we have another pay-per-view that is going to be coming up on February 22nd. That's a Friday night for you guys. It all begins at 8 p.m. when Shine Wrestling presents Shine 7 on the pay-per-view. And let me tell you about some of the matches that we are going to be seeing at this event. Now, it goes as follows. This is the current card right now, last updated on February 6th. In the main event, we have Rain, who will be taking on Amazing Kong. Leva Bates will be taking on Kimberly. Mercedes Martinez will be taking on one of my favorite Twitter buddies, Nikki Rocks. Allison Kay, Taylor Made, and April Hunter of Valkyrie. Remember, that new stable had formed at the last Shine pay-per-view. They'll be taking on Maya Yim, Tracy Taylor, and Sue Young. LuFisto and Ila Lees will be going head-to-head. Jessie Bell will be taking on Santana. Brittany Savage will be facing Heidi Lovelace. Luscious Latasha will be taking on Tina San Antonio. Shine 7, again, takes place Friday, February 22nd. And correction, not at 8 p.m. is Eastern. It'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Once again, February 22nd at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can actually order that pay-per-view at our website. We've made it very easy for you all to be able to navigate over there. All you have to do is just sign up and you'll be able to check out the pay-per-view. You can't really beat it. I mean, you can check it out live on your stream, stream it on your computer. It's some good shit, man. $10, you can't really go wrong. So if you have a really good, decent internet connection and you don't have anything to do on a Friday night, and you're a huge wrestling fan and you love women's wrestling, then that is definitely the place you want to be. Of course, they have a chat room that is up on there. I will definitely be on there in case those of you would like to interact with me. And rest assured, we will be doing a live post show covering the fallout. Phone lines will be open on that episode, so you're more than welcome to tune in. Bear in mind that with that Shine 7 event, we're going to be seeing the debut of a few wrestlers there. Let me point it out to you here, for those of you that might be familiar with them. Jessie Bell, LuFisto, and Brittany Savage. Those three in particular will be making their Shine debuts. And bear in mind that LuFisto, she was just recently involved in the TNA Gut Check polling contest that just went downhill as people were just abusing the hell out of the voting contest. So it should be a very interesting event. Of course, if you're not going to be able to order the pay-per-view at our website over at infinityOneProductions.com, we will be covering the pay-per-view live in progress. We'll be feeding you guys live results every 2 to 4 minutes. So make sure that you bookmark our website. It'll be the place that you want to be come Friday night, February 22nd at 9 p.m. for Shine 7 iPay-per-view. Ring of Honor Wrestling, we go now, as they'll be returning to Cincinnati, Ohio in just a few days on February 16th. Jay Lethal will be taking on Tardius Thomas, who just signed for the event. Truth Martini will be holding a special in-ring gathering at Ring of Honor's live event in Cincinnati on February 16th. It's going to be called The Hoopla. Also, Ring of Honor's 11th anniversary will be held on March 2nd from the Frontier Fieldhouse in Chicago Ridge. They've already packed the card, and it's going to feature the main event of Jay Lethal, as he'll be taking on Kevin Steen for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Tickets are available now. Also, the following day, March 3rd, same arena, Ring of Honor will be holding a special TV taping that showcases the fallout from 11th anniversary. Mark Henry, ACH, and QT Marshall have all just been signed to the event. You can check out tickets now. For you Christopher Daniels fans, The Fallen Angel is Ring of Honor's newest 2-disc DVD compilation. And folks, you want to invest in this. It has 18 full matches from Daniels' storied Ring of Honor career. This week's edition of Ring of Honor Wrestling returns to TV that features an 8-man wrestling main event. It's going to be the Briscoes teaming up with Caprice Coleman and Cedric Alexander as they'll take on Scum, Kevin Steen, Steve Corneo, Jimmy Jacobs, and Rhino. Other matches include Mischief versus Athena and Matt Tavern versus ACH in the Top Prospect Tournament. Ring of Honor matchmaker Nigel McGuinness will also confront Matt Hardy and Adam Cole.
Covering the latest in wrestling and beyond. You're listening to the RCWR Show, Weekend Edition, with your host, Lee Sanders.
We are back. All right, so now it's time for my favorite part of the show, where we give you a little bit of news that you can use. So it looks like former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. has reportedly signed a plea deal with the Justice Department regarding the misuse of campaign funds. Now, according to a report by the Chicago Sun-Times released earlier this week, that deal includes significant jail time. Now, according to an NBC News report, a federal judge who has not been assigned yet will determine how much time Jackson will serve. He will also have to repay the government hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on items such as a $40,000 Rolex watch and furniture for his private home. Now, when Jackson had resigned from Congress last November, he was widely believed to be negotiating a deal with the federal attorneys back then. Now, this is a direct quote right here from Jackson, who had gave his resignation letter. He said, "I am aware of the ongoing federal investigation into my activities, and I am doing my best to address the situation responsibly, cooperate with the investigators, and accept responsibilities for my mistakes. For they are my mistakes and my mistakes alone." Now, NBC News is also reporting that there are still a few loose ends that still need to be tied up, such as whether Jackson's wife, Sandy, who resigned as her alderman's position last month, will also be charged. We'll continue to stay on top of that. Of course, Jesse Jackson Jr., the son of Jesse Jackson, I don't even need to go into who that guy is. You all obviously know who that individual is. All right, and it looks like the manhunt is continuing for Christopher Dorner, the former Los Angeles cop who went on a shooting spree this week, resulting in the deaths of a police officer and a couple. Now, according to the Associated Press, in 2008, Dorner was fired by the LAPD when they decided he falsely accused his training officer of kicking a mentally ill man in the face and the chest. The couple he killed last weekend was a woman whose father, get this folks, was a LAPD captain and had represented him as he fought to keep his job and her fiance. Now, after Dorner was let go from the LAPD, police believe he had wrote a detailed 14-page manifesto, basically plotting the violent revenge that he was going to be carrying out. Also in this document, he described his anger as being caused by racism he experienced from his childhood up until his dismissal from the LAPD. Now, the Associated Press, they gave this statement. They said that Dahmer recalls that he beat up a fellow student who called him a racial slur on the playground while in the first grade. The principal punished the student, but he also chastised Dorner for not turning the other cheek as Jesus did. That day, I made a life decision that I will not tolerate racial derogatory terms spoken to me, he wrote. He also recalls sticking up for a fellow cadet in the police academy where other recruits sang Hitler Youth songs and taunted the man who was the son of a Holocaust survivor, and placing another recruit in a chokehold after the man used a racial slur and refused to stop when Dorner objected. Now, call this for whatever it is worth right here, but it just goes to show you that it doesn't take a mentally disturbed person, teenager at that, young man at that, living at home with his mom taking him out to a shooting range, and then he goes on a shooting spree at a elementary school. Take all that information right there. It just goes to show you that race, age, just knows no boundaries when it comes to guns and violence. I mean, you talk about a guy that used to serve the shield, trying to protect and serve. that just had a mental breakdown like this. Really, don't even get me started, because I will be talking about something like this for about 25-30 minutes. But when you look at something like this, it just really makes your eyes open up even more. And I hope that for those people that are out there, especially those in Congress, that want to sit up and say that, oh, it's the video games, it's why people are snapping, why they're doing this, why they're going out there thinking it's cool to kill people in real life. Let's just get all that talk out the way right now, because honestly, I just think that's a crock of bullshit, quite honestly. And that's the 411 on that. It seems like every time we have a tragedy involving shooting, that video games is always the topic. The first shooter games, they're always a victim, and there's always the talk of trying to get rid of violent video games, trying to figure out ways to go about giving a extreme rating so that it's very hard for young folks to be able to buy in the stores. We hear this every time there's some type of a shooting going out, but to hear something like this go down, it just really lets you know that it doesn't come down to some young person that's just kicking back playing video games. And I know there's probably going to be a ton of people that maybe want to try to dissect this guy and his life and try to figure out if video games was a huge part of his life. And I think, honestly, I'm calling it as it is, and I know it's pretty early, and usually I like to wait until a little bit more information is available, but I'm just going to call it for what it is right now. I don't think they're going to be able to find anything. This guy has just had a bad screw loose since he was a young man, and it's just now blowing up on everybody, unfortunately. Hey, I got a little bit of Chris Brown news, just in case you all are a little bit curious. It looks like prosecutors, they want for Brown's probation to have a do-over, as the court filing cites lack of proof that he had completed community service. That's what's being said right now. Now, it looks like in a motion that was filed earlier this week, the Los Angeles County's District Attorney's Office cited discrepancies in how the singer accounted for his time, saying that he was essentially unsupervised. They also have pointed out other incidents that indicate that Brown has problems managing his anger, that had included a scuffle last month with Frank Ocean over a parking spot. And let's not forget, there was that 2011 incident where he smashed a window with a chair following an interview on Good Morning America. Now, the filing claims both outbursts violated the terms of his sentence for beating up Rihanna in 2009, of which the pair has since reconciled. Now, the singer's attorney, Mark Jagos, called the filing basically defamatory. Basically, he's calling it BS in a nutshell, because the way this went down, he just thinks that really this is just a waste of taxpayers' dollars, and that basically they're just trying to find other ways to stick it to him. Now, bear in mind, Brown was said to have served his community service in Virginia under the supervision of Richmond's police chief as part of the singer's sentence. But the prosecutors said an investigation into Brown's probation record from Virginia showed, at best, sloppy documentation, is how it's best described here, folks, and at worst, fraudulent reporting of inconsistencies, such as crediting Brown for performing community service in Richmond at the same time he was supposedly doing chores at a daycare center an hour away where his mother once worked. So basically, they're having a little bit of a hard time here finding proof that can really validate Brown had served his community time. Now, they actually went to court yesterday, Rihanna and Chris Brown. And Rihanna was seen blowing a kiss at Brown from the front row. As, God, I just want to stop right there. I just want to, you hear this, and we've seen a lot of the things that you guys are saying about this on social media. A lot of you feel that Chris Brown, Rihanna, they should just be left alone. Why is the media even interested in this? Some of you are even jumping out there and saying that, oh, the man has learned his ways. I just want you to get this through your thick skulls for a second. I just named you a few incidents since the Rihanna beatdown that he still has not really learned a damn thing. He is still hot-tempered as fuck. And if this guy isn't given some serious tough love, then, a scenario could occur where he could end up destroying somebody to the point of death. And then a lot of people are really going to be kicking themselves in the ass. Here's the thing I want you guys to ask yourself. If you were to take someone like Chris Brown, put him in the same circumstance of beating up that poor woman the way that he did, strip away all the money, strip away the Grammys, just all that, just have it be an average Joe. Tell me that person would get the same type of sentence that Chris Brown had got. And if you honestly believe that the sentence would be the same, then my friends, you are sadly mistaken. That fool would end up serving some time in jail, most likely 2 to 5 years at best. Maybe a little bit of probation can help him get out a little early, but 2 to 5 years at best. With probation, maybe 1 year to 3 years, if lucky. So, all this talk about, oh, Chris Brown, he's changed. Leave him alone. No. Not as long as he continues to act the way that he's acting. Unfortunately, he's not going to be left alone. And, you just feel so sorry about what's happening with Rihanna. A very close friend of mine, several years back, she was in a domestic abuse relationship with a man that she just loved. I mean, she just kept blaming herself for some of the problems that was going on in their relationship. She always thought that she was getting the beatings because of something that she did wrong. It was never his fault. It was never a case where he was the one with the mental angry problems. And, eventually she saw the light and she was able to get herself out of that bad position and really put some distance between her and him. And she's doing very nicely now. She's happily married, has a kid running around. I mean, she's doing pretty good now. But the best advice that I can give to those that might know somebody, or hell, might even be in a position kind of similar to what Rihanna was in, there is always help available for you. All it takes is just picking up that phone and just making that call. You can do it anonymously, and if you value your life, you want to try to do the right thing. You want to try to put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to not live in fear. Anytime you're living in fear, wondering if you're going to be able to wake up the next day because you're sleeping next to a person that's continuing to beat you, if you honestly have to ask yourself if you're going to live to see tomorrow, then it's definitely time for you to start shaking things up. That's just how I feel about that. I'll move along on that note, though. I don't want to spend too much more time on that, but I just always think of how interesting and how sad I get whenever I hear that Rihanna is still messing around with this guy. All right, so I got some breaking bad news for you guys. It looks like the creator, Vince Gilligan, is going to be coming back. He's going to be writing the series finale himself. Now, he'll write and direct this final episode of the show that's going to see the series concluding this summer after 5 seasons, chronicling the drug world exploits of former high school chemistry teacher Walter Wright, as played by Bryan Cranston. So make sure that you guys check that out. I'm not really sure if this series is going to be picked up on another network. So you guys want to make sure that you invest in this. And if you are not familiar with Breaking Bad, you can catch up on the entire season on Netflix. You can stream it on your laptop, desktop, mobile device, Xbox 360, PlayStation, you name it. You'll be able to catch it. Thank me later. It is one bad kick-ass series. I love it to death. It's got like Scarface mixed in with the Shield, not the WWE Shield now, but it totally kicks ass. Check it out if you're not familiar with the series. You will get hooked on it instantly. Trust me. Very unfortunate that it's ending its run on AMC. It pretty much comes down to the series being extremely expensive. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they are on like a $2 million budget or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I believe that's just per episode. I could be mistaken, but it costs a lot to do these episodes. And pretty much it came down to Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, or AMC's, I'm trying to think of the show right now, Mad Men. Pretty much came down to those three, and unfortunately, Breaking Bad got the bad end of the stick, if you will. All right, I got some Eminem news for you guys. It looks like Eminem's going to be following up to 2010's Recovery, as his new album will be landing in stores this year. According to Billboard, it's going to be dropping after Memorial Day. Now, Shady Records president Paul Rosenberg, he revealed to the publication that Eminem is far into the process of recording his 8th studio album, and that we are fully expecting to be releasing the new album in 2013. He's been working on it for some time. Safe to say that there will be post-Memorial Day at some point, but we're not exactly sure when. We've got to lock down some dates for him to get in and perform live in Europe in August. So we're trying to see what else lines up. Now, bear in mind, the album is still unentitled, but it's going to be the first release since 2011's Hail, the sequel with Bad Meets Evil, his project with Royce Day 5'9". So get ready for that new Eminem album. That should kick ass. All of Eminem's albums usually kick ass. Hey, I got some Dave Grohl, Chris Tucker news. Looks like they're going to be presenting at the 2013 Film Independent Spirit Awards. That's right. Now, it looks like the way that this is going to be playing out, they're just a few of the among presenters that's going to be taking place at this award special. It looks like the Silver Linings Playbooks, Chris Tucker, SNL's and Portoliano's Fred Emerson, and director Sofia Coppola will also serve as presenters at the award show, which SNL alumnus Andy Samberg is set to host. So that should be pretty interesting. It's going to be happening on the IFC channel, and you'll be able to catch that February 23rd. Now, if you want to get a full list of all the nominees, I highly encourage you to go check out the Spirit Awards website at spiritawards.com. Hey, do we have any Ramones fans listening? Because if so, I have some very interesting news you should know about. Looks like there's going to be nearly 100 records owned by Joey Ramone that'll be up for sale in an auction online that'll be taking place February 14th, as the estate of the Ramone singer will auction off a 97 title vinyl collection, including albums by Cream, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Lou Reed, Human League, and yes, just to name a few. There's also going to be an auction for some of his clothes, passport, handwritten lyrics, and his Rolodex. Now, there will be a separate auction for items such as his passport, lyrics, 2 guitars which he owned, the Rolodex I mentioned earlier, and a leather jacket, sunglasses, and a lot of t-shirts. That's all from bands including Nirvana and Motorhead, radio stations, and location. Again, the auction is going to be running from February 14th until February 21st. All items include a letter of authenticity from the Joey Ramone estate. Of course, Ramone, whose real name was Jeffrey Heyman, he died in 2001, shortly after a posthumous solo album titled You Know had came out last year. I was really excited when I fucking heard this piece of news right here. This really had made my day big time. Looks like Legacy Recordings is going to be releasing a new expanded deluxe edition of Above by the super rock group Mad Season. Now, Mad Season, they were a Seattle-based super rock group that had formed in 1994. And it consists of Alice in Chains' original lead singer, Lane Staley, guitarist Mike McGreedy from Pearl Jam, drummer and percussionist Barrett Martin from the Screaming Trees, and bassist John Baker Sanders from the Walkabouts Lamont Cranston Band. Now, the deluxe edition of Mad Season's Above is going to be a 3-disc set comprised of 2 CDs and 1 DVD. Now, it includes the original studio album and a host of extras such as previously unreleased tracks from the band's unfinished second album with new lyrics and vocals by Mark Lanigan from the Screaming Trees. The full audio plus the first official album, DVD release that is, of Mad Season's last show ever performed, which was live at the Moore, and an unreleased full concert video of the band's New Year's Eve performance from the now defunct Seattle club RCWR. And you also get a full color collector's booklet and more. So you want to make sure that you check that out. Pre-orders are available now at select retailers. The deluxe edition and a separate digital configuration will shortly be available on Tuesday, April 2nd. Now, in addition to that, there's going to be a 12-inch 2LP expanded edition vinyl that'll be available on Record Store Day, which will be on April 20th. So make sure that you check that out. It's also going to be available in the iTunes Store. It's going to be remastered for those of you that are curious. This was really one of the most standout albums in my mind as far as the whole Alice in Chains catalog, as far as the whole Lane Staley catalog. This album right here, it just really had Lane Staley go in such a 180. I mean, I wasn't even expecting for him to be able to put out the type of material that he did on this album. And really, the standout tracks that jump in my mind that are my personal favorite is River of Deceit. I just thought that so much emotion, so much sorrow, so much joy was in that song, especially the lyrics. I mean, just beautifully written, and the video that was done for it, black and white, just visually, just stunning. Highly recommend you check it out if you haven't seen that, but that's one song that stands out in my mind. November Hotel, that was another one that really stood out in my mind. Life Was Dead, that's another one that I liked. I mean, the whole album had rocked, and I actually had the liberty of listening to a couple of leaked songs that didn't make it onto the actual album back in the heyday, and I just, when I heard the songs, I was like, man, why didn't these make it to the album? So I'm really, really glad that after all these years, it took a while. I didn't even think they had any more material, but it's really nice to see that they were able to savage up some stuff, and we're going to get a really nice special treat. Of course, we'll have a full review of this when it does come out. Rest assured of that, folks. And lastly, it looks like the Governor's Ball is getting a huge fucking boost as Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses, they're going to be added to the headliners for the New York Festival in June. Now, they're going to be joining Kings of Leon, Kanye West, Nas, the Ovid Brothers, Grizzly Bear, Kendrick Lamar, the Luminars, the Animal Collective, Feast, Gary Clark Jr., and more. The festival will be Guns N' Roses' first major U.S. gig since the band's Las Vegas residency last fall. The Rockers also performed at Neil Young's annual Bridge School benefit last October. The band is set for a short tour of Australia afterwards with ZZ Top in March. So nice to see that Guns N' Roses are still at it and they are going on strong. But, there's one question that's floating around in my mind right now. Hey, Axel, when are we going to get another album from you? Hopefully it's not going to take another, God, what was that, 15 years or something? Hopefully we won't have to wait that much longer for it. Almost time to wrap up the show, but before we do, we have to take a special nod to those celebrities, that's having birthdays today. Actress Judith Light, best known for her role on One Life to Live and on Who's the Boss with my man Tony Danza. She is 63 years old today. Tom Hiddleston, he played the badass villain Loki in the Thor and Avenger movie. He turns 31. Also, Joe Pesci. You like that? You like that? Huh? You like that? 69 years old. Of course, you know him from some of his best work in Casino and Goodfellas. Let me also not forget My Cousin Vinny. Good classic movie right there as well. Happy birthday to you all. And if we had missed your birthday, happy birthday to you as well. Well, that's going to do it for the weekend edition of the RCWR show. We're going to be on a little bit of a break for now. But make sure you join me and Diamond K this Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern for our wrestling edition of the RCWR show, where we'll cover the fallout from WWE Raw, as the tone is going to be set for the Elimination Chamber that's going to be coming up shortly. We'll also go over the very latest in wrestling-related news and so much more. Hey, be kind, rewind. If there's an episode that you have missed out this week or in the previous weeks, make sure that you download them. You can do so in the iTunes, Zune marketplaces. Just use the keywords, the RCWR show. Episodes available for all your respected iDevices, all portable devices. Hey, you can also check it out on Stitcher. If you don't have that Stitcher app, you're really missing out. That's the best way to go in case you don't have those iDevices. Stitcher, new and smart way to play internet radio. That's going to do it, folks. Do hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Be safe. Be kind to one another, folks. We will see you this Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. Everybody, take care.